The apartment door slid open with a mechanical hiss, and Jake Martinez found himself face to face with what looked like a 7-foot-tall praying mantis wearing a Hawaiian shirt. The creature's compound eyes reflected Jake's stunned expression about 1,000 times over. "Greetings, human Jake Martinez," the alien said, its mandibles clicking in what Jake hoped was a friendly manner. "I am Zix Theta of the Klendari Collective. According to the Intergalactic Housing Authority, we are to be cohabitants." Jake blinked. When he'd signed up for the Earth-Alien Integration Program, he'd expected maybe a nice Centaurian or one of those fuzzy Beetlejuiceans. Not this. Hi, Jake managed, stepping aside. "Come on in, and just Jake is fine." Zix Theta ducked through the doorway, carrying what appeared to be a single metallic cube. The alien's head swiveled a full 180 degrees, scanning the apartment. "This dwelling is colorful," Zix Theta observed, examining Jake's collection of movie posters and the cluttered coffee table covered in pizza boxes and game controllers. "Yeah, sorry about the mess. Wasn't expecting you until tomorrow." Jake hastily shoved some dirty laundry behind the couch. "So, where's the rest of your stuff?" Zix Theta held up the cube. "This contains all my possessions in compressed molecular form. Very efficient." "Right. Efficient." Jake watched as the alien set the cube down and pressed something on its surface. The cube expanded into a simple cot and a strange cylindrical device. "So, have you eaten?" "I was about to order Chinese food." "I consume nutrient paste exclusively," Zix Theta replied, producing a tube from somewhere in its carapace. "Your human sustenance rituals are irrelevant to my biology." Jake shrugged and pulled out his phone. "Suit yourself. More lo mein for me." While Jake ordered, Zix Theta explored the apartment with scientific precision, occasionally making notes on a holographic display that projected from its wrist. The alien seemed particularly puzzled by the television. "This device displays false realities for entertainment purposes?" Zix Theta asked. "Pretty much, yeah. Want to watch something while we wait for food?" I failed to see the logic in observing events that did not occur. Jake flopped onto the couch and patted the cushion beside him. "Trust me, it's fun. Here, let's start with something classic." He pulled up a streaming service and selected an old action movie. Zix Theta perched awkwardly on the couch, its long limbs folded at uncomfortable-looking angles. For the first 10 minutes, the alien watched in complete silence. Then, during a particularly explosive chase scene, Jake noticed Zix Theta's antennae twitching. The protagonist's escape probability was approximately 0.03%, Zix Theta calculated, yet he survived. Fascinating. That's the magic of movies, buddy. The good guy usually wins. But the antagonist's plan was logically superior. Why did he fail? Jake grinned. Because he talked too much instead of just shooting the hero. Classic villain mistake. The doorbell rang, and Jake paused the movie to get the food. When he returned with bags of Chinese takeout, he found Zix Theta standing directly in front of the TV, antennae quivering. "The narrative is incomplete," Zix Theta stated. "What happens to the protagonist?" "We can finish it after I eat." Jake unpacked containers of lo mein, orange chicken, and fried rice. The aroma filled the apartment, and he noticed Zix Theta's head tilting toward the food. "Your sustenance produces significant olfactory stimulation," the alien observed. "You mean it smells good?" Jake held out a container. "Want to try some? I ordered extra." "I told you. Human food is incompatible with—" Zix Theta stopped mid-sentence as Jake waved a piece of orange chicken near its face. The alien's antennae went wild. "Perhaps a small sample for scientific purposes." Jake handed over a fork and watched as Zix Theta awkwardly gripped it with 3 clawed fingers. The alien speared a piece of chicken and brought it to its mandibles. There was a moment of hesitation. Then Zix Theta placed the food in its mouth. The transformation was instantaneous. Zix Theta's compound eyes somehow managed to widen, its antennae stood straight up, and a low humming sound emanated from its thorax. This is... Zix Theta grabbed the entire container and began shoveling orange chicken into its mouth with disturbing efficiency. Why did nobody inform me that human sustenance could produce such sensory pleasure? I take it you like it? Jake laughed, sliding over another container. Try the lo mein. What followed was 20 minutes of Zix Theta systematically sampling every item Jake had ordered, making increasingly enthusiastic clicking sounds with each new flavor. The alien's clinical demeanor had completely vanished, replaced by something Jake could only describe as foodie passion. The interplay of sweet and savory, Zix Theta exclaimed, waving a spring roll. The textural contrast, the umami. Jake, I must document this immediately. The alien began rapidly recording notes while still eating, creating a bizarre multitasking display that involved at least 4 limbs. Glad you're enjoying it, Jake said, rescuing the last egg roll before Zix Theta could claim it. Want to finish the movie? Yes, the protagonist's fate remains unresolved. Zix Theta settled back onto the couch, considerably more relaxed than before, cradling a container of fried rice. They resumed the movie, and Jake found himself enjoying Zix Theta's running commentary. The alien analyzed every stunt, calculated every probability, and somehow became emotionally invested in the character's well-being. No, don't go into the warehouse alone, Zix Theta clicked anxiously. The probability of ambush is 97.3%. You're really getting into this, Jake observed. The narrative creates artificial tension that triggers stress responses, Zix Theta explained, not taking its eyes off the screen. It's completely illogical. I must see how it ends. When the hero finally defeated the villain and saved the day, Zix Theta made a satisfied chirping sound. The conclusion was predictable yet satisfying, the alien announced. Do you have more of these movies? Thousands, Jake said. Different genres, too. Action, comedy, horror, sci-fi, science fiction. Zix Theta's antennae perked up. Humans create false narratives about scientific concepts. Oh, you're gonna love Star Trek. As Jake queued up another movie, Zix Theta turned to him with what might have been curiosity. Jake, I must ask, why did you share your food and entertainment with me? I offered nothing in return. Jake shrugged. That's just what roommates do. We share stuff. Plus, it's more fun watching movies with someone else. This concept of fun requires further investigation, Zix Theta mused. As does this roommate relationship. On Klendari, cohabitants maintain strict resource boundaries. Well, you're on Earth now. We do things differently here. Indeed. Zix Theta settled back with its fried rice. I believe I will find this arrangement agreeable. The next morning, Jake woke to find Zix Theta in the kitchen, surrounded by takeout menus from every restaurant within delivery range. The alien had somehow figured out how to use Jake's laptop and was cross-referencing reviews with nutritional information. Good morning, Jake, Zix Theta chirped. I have compiled a list of 47 establishments I wish to sample. Also, I finished the Star Trek series you recommended. All of them. The Vulcan philosophy is flawed but intriguing. Jake stared. All of them? Zix, that's like 800 episodes. 814, actually. I don't require sleep like humans do. Oh, I also discovered something called coffee in your kitchen. Fascinating beverage. I consumed 6 pots. That explained the slight vibration Jake could feel in the floor. Zix Theta was practically buzzing with caffeine. Okay, first rule of being human, Jake said, gently taking the 7th pot of coffee away from the alien. Everything in moderation. But the stimulant effect enhances cognitive function by 12%. It also makes you jittery and crash later, trust me. How about we start with breakfast? Real breakfast, not just coffee. Breakfast, Zix Theta repeated reverently. Yes, I read about this ritual. Humans consume specific foods based on the time of day. Highly illogical but intriguing. Jake opened the fridge and pulled out eggs and bacon. Nothing illogical about bacon, my friend. Here, I'll teach you to cook. I can prepare nutrient paste in 137 different configurations, Zixa Theta said proudly. That's great, but can any of them make your apartment smell like heaven on a Sunday morning? Zixa Theta watched intently as Jake heated the pan and laid out strips of bacon. When the meat began to sizzle and fill the air with its aroma, the aliens' antennae nearly tied themselves in knots. This olfactory assault should be classified as a weapon, Zixa Theta said, practically pressed against the stove. How is such a thing legal? Wait until you taste it. Jake flipped the bacon and cracked some eggs into another pan. Want to try flipping these? He handed the spatula to Zixa Theta, who held it like a surgical instrument. The alien's first attempt sent an egg flying onto the floor, but the second was more successful. I have achieved egg rotation, Zixa Theta announced triumphantly. Nice job. Now slide it onto the plate. Perfect. They sat at the small dining table, and Jake watched with amusement as Zixa Theta experienced bacon for the first time. The alien made a sound that could only be described as a purr. Jake. I must confess something, Zixa Theta said between bites. I requested Earth assignment because it was considered the least desirable posting. Your species is young, chaotic, and seemingly obsessed with frivolous pursuits. Gee, thanks. But, Zixa Theta continued, after just one Earth day, I understand I was wrong. These frivolous pursuits, your food, your entertainment, your social bonding rituals, they serve a purpose beyond mere survival. Yeah? What purpose? Zixa Theta clicked thoughtfully. They create joy, connection, meaning beyond biological imperatives. The Klendari collective values efficiency above all else, but we have forgotten something essential. What's that? That existence should be more than just efficient. It should be... Zixa Theta paused, searching for the word. Enjoyable. Jake raised his coffee mug. Welcome to humanity, buddy. Zixa Theta clinked its mug against Jake's, sloshing coffee onto the table. I believe I will require extensive further research into human customs. For scientific purposes, of course. Of course, Jake grinned. So what do you want to try next? I discovered something called video games during my research last night. The concept of interactive entertainment is fascinating. Also, what is pizza, and why do humans consider it appropriate to consume at all hours? Oh man, you're gonna love game night. I'll invite some friends over. We'll order pizza, play some co-op. Friends? Zixa Theta's head tilted. You mean non-kin social bonds? Exactly. Humans are big on those. The Klendari maintain professional relationships only. This friendship concept requires study. Zixa Theta pulled up its holographic notepad. I should document everything for my report to the collective. Sure, but don't forget to actually experience it too. Can't understand friendship from documentation alone. Zixa Theta considered this. You may be correct. Very well, I shall endeavor to hang out, as you humans say. That's the spirit. Oh, and Zix? Maybe ease up on the Hawaiian shirt? We'll go shopping later, get you some more clothes. But this garment has optimal pocket configuration. Trust me, fashion isn't about optimal anything. It's about expression. Another illogical human concept to explore, Zixa Theta said happily. I predict this assignment will be far more educational than anticipated. As they finished breakfast, Jake's phone buzzed with messages from friends asking about his new alien roommate. Word traveled fast in the building. Looks like people are curious about you, Jake said. Want to meet some neighbors? Social interaction with multiple humans simultaneously? Zixa Theta's compound eyes glittered. Yes, I must observe pack dynamics in domestic settings. Maybe don't call it pack dynamics to their faces, Jake suggested. Noted. I shall practice appropriate human small talk. Zix Theta straightened up. Hello, fellow human. Nice weather we're having. Did you observe the sports competition last night? Jake laughed. We'll work on it. As they prepared to meet the neighbors, Jake reflected on how his life had changed in less than 24 hours. He'd expected awkwardness, maybe some culture clash. He hadn't expected to gain a friend who approached every human experience with the enthusiasm of a kid in a candy store. Hey, Zix, Jake said as they headed for the door. Thanks. For what? For reminding me how cool ordinary stuff can be when you see it through fresh eyes. Zix Theta made a pleased humming sound. Thank you, Jake, for sharing your world with me. I believe this is the beginning of a beautiful roommate-ship. Friendship, Jake corrected. That too, Zix Theta agreed, and followed Jake out into the hall, ready to discover what other wonders human life had to offer. 3 weeks had passed since Zix Theta moved in, and Jake's apartment had undergone a bizarre transformation. Alien technology mingled with human conveniences in ways that would make any safety inspector weep. A Klendari food analyzer sat next to the microwave. Holographic displays flickered above the TV showing what Zix Theta called efficiency metrics for various human activities. The coffee maker had been modified with alien tech to brew what Zix Theta proudly called ultra coffee, which Jake was pretty sure violated several international treaties on stimulants. Jake found Zix Theta in the living room, wearing sweatpants and a band t-shirt, playing video games with an intensity that bordered on religious fervor. The alien had sprouted what looked like 2 additional arms from its thorax, specifically to hold extra controllers. Die, zombie scum! Zix Theta shrieked, mashing buttons with 6 limbs simultaneously. Your putrid existence ends now! Zix? Jake ventured. You know it's just a game, right? Of course! Zix Theta didn't look away from the screen. But total immersion enhances the experience by 34%. Also, I'm about to beat Kyle Destroyer 99's high score, and according to my research, this will establish my dominance in the social hierarchy. Jake shook his head, grinning. His alien roommate had not just adapted to human customs, Zix Theta had embraced them with a fervor that put most humans to shame. The doorbell rang, and Jake went to answer it. Their neighbor Sarah stood outside with a covered dish. Hey, Jake, I brought lasagna for your movie night. How's your roommate adjusting? A victorious screech from the living room answered her question. I am the Zombie Slayer Supreme. Bow before my gaming prowess. Sarah raised an eyebrow. That well, huh? You have no idea, Jake said, taking the dish. Last week, Zix discovered online shopping. I had to hide my credit card after the 3rd shipment of novelty socks arrived. They entered to find Zix Theta doing what could only be described as a victory dance, which was particularly impressive given the number of joints in Klendari legs. Sarah! Zix Theta exclaimed, immediately switching to what it considered appropriate human social mode. How delightful to see you! I hope your day has been productive and emotionally fulfilling. Hi, Zix, Sarah laughed. Congrats on the high score. Thank you. I have discovered that trash-talking enhances competitive performance. Would you like to hear my new insults? I learned them from a 12-year-old in an online match. Maybe later, Jake intervened quickly. People are going to start arriving soon. You ready for your first proper movie night? Zix Theta's antennae quivered with excitement. I have prepared extensively. I researched optimal snack arrangements, downloaded 17 discussion topics about cinematography, and created a spreadsheet ranking all possible films by genre, length, and critical reception. That's very thorough, Sarah said. I also practiced human casual lounging positions. Zix Theta demonstrated by draping itself across the couch in what it clearly thought was a relaxed pose, but looked more like a giant insect pretending to be a contortionist. Perfect, Jake lied. Just be yourself, Zix. That's kind of the point of hanging out. More neighbors began arriving. There was Marcus from 4B, who worked in tech and immediately bonded with Zix Theta over optimization algorithms. Elena and her girlfriend Amy brought homemade guacamole, which sent Zix Theta into a 15-minute speech about the evolutionary perfection of avocados. Old Mr. Chen from down the hall showed up with his famous dumplings and stories about the neighborhood. Jake watched with growing amusement as Zix Theta attempted to engage with everyone simultaneously. The alien had read about being a good host and taken it to extremes, trying to memorize everyone's preferences, refill drinks before they were empty, and maintain exactly 3.7 seconds of eye contact during conversations, based on some study it had found. "Zix, relax," Jake whispered during a moment of calm. "You're making everyone nervous with all the hovering. But optimal host behavior requires not calculating optimal host behavior," Jake said. "Just hang out, talk to people, eat snacks, stop analyzing everything." Zix Theta's mandibles clicked uncertainly. "But how will I know if I'm doing it correctly?" "If people are laughing and having fun, you're doing it right." The alien considered this, then nodded. "I shall attempt to go with the flow, as you humans say." What followed was perhaps the most successful cultural exchange in human-alien relations history. Once Zix Theta stopped trying so hard, its natural curiosity and enthusiasm charmed everyone. The aliens running commentary during the movie had everyone in stitches. "Why doesn't she simply tell him about her feelings?" Zix Theta demanded during a romantic scene. "This entire conflict could be resolved with one conversation." "Welcome to every romantic comedy ever," Amy laughed. "Romantic comedy," Zix Theta repeated, making notes. "Humans enjoy watching fictional relationships fail due to easily avoidable miscommunication. Fascinating masochistic tendency." When Mr. Chen started sharing stories about the building's history, Zix Theta was enthralled. The Klendari had no concept of oral tradition, and the idea of passing down stories for their own sake rather than pure information transfer was revolutionary. "So you maintain these narratives not for data preservation, but for emotional continuity?" Zix Theta asked. "Something like that," Mr. Chen smiled. "Stories connect us to our past and each other. On Klendari, we purge unnecessary data every cycle to maintain efficiency," Zix Theta said quietly. "I am beginning to think we may have purged too much." As the evening wound down, Jake found Zix Theta on the balcony, staring at the city lights. The alien had been unusually quiet for the past few minutes. "You okay?" Jake asked, joining his roommate. "I received a communication from the collective today," Zix Theta said. "They are concerned about my reports." "Why?" "I have been documenting human customs as instructed, but my analysis has been deemed compromised by emotional involvement." Zix Theta's antennae drooped. "They say I am becoming too human." Jake frowned. "Is that a bad thing?" "To the collective? Yes. They value objectivity above all else. But Jake—" Zix Theta turned to face him, compound eyes reflecting the apartment's warm light. "I don't want to be objective about this anymore. I want to be part of it." "Then be part of it," Jake said simply. "Screw what they think." "You make it sound so easy." "It is easy. You've already done the hard part. You've made friends, found things you enjoy, built a life here. That's what being human is about." Zix Theta made a sound that might have been a laugh. "I don't think I can actually become human, Jake." "Nah, but you can be you. Just a version of you that likes movies and video games and way too much coffee." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Zix Theta spoke again. "The collective wants me to return for recalibration, to remove these contaminating influences." Jake's stomach dropped. "When?" "I have not responded yet. I am considering my options." Before Jake could reply, Sarah poked her head out. "Hey guys, Marcus is challenging everyone to Mario Kart." "Zix. He says you can't possibly beat him with your inferior non-human reflexes." Zix Theta's competitive instincts flared immediately. Inferior? I shall destroy him. My reflexes transcend species limitations. As the alien rushed inside, Jake caught Sarah's arm. Thanks. Zix needed that distraction. I heard what it said about the collective, Sarah whispered. We're not going to let them take our alien, are we? Hell no, Jake said. Zix belongs here now. Inside, Zix Theta had already claimed a controller and was trash-talking Marcus with newfound skill. Prepare for humiliation, Marcus. Your pathetic human thumbs cannot match my superior appendages. Big talk for someone who just discovered video games last month, Marcus shot back. The room erupted in cheers and playful jeers as the race began. Jake watched Zix Theta integrate seamlessly into the group dynamics, laughing at jokes, making its own quips, and celebrating victories with elaborate dances that defied physics. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Jake found Zix Theta carefully cleaning up, handling the dishes with the same reverence it once reserved for alien technology. Thank you, Zix Theta said suddenly. For what? For showing me that efficiency isn't everything, for sharing your world even when I was a difficult guest, for... Zix Theta paused, searching for words. For being my friend. Jake smiled. Thanks for being mine. And hey, you weren't that difficult. Weird as hell, sure, but not difficult. I modified your coffee maker to produce a substance that could probably power a small spacecraft. Okay, that was a little difficult. But worth it? Zix Theta carefully dried a plate, movements precise, but gentle. I've decided to respond to the collective. Jake's heart sank. And? I'm requesting permanent assignment to Earth. If they refuse... Zix Theta's mandibles set in determination. Then I'll apply for asylum. Elena mentioned something called immigration law. I've been researching it extensively. You'd defect? Give up your position in the collective? The collective offers efficiency and purpose, Zix Theta said. But humans offer pizza and friendship and terrible movies that make no logical sense but bring joy anyway. It's not a difficult choice. Jake felt a wave of relief. We'll help you, all of us. You're part of the building now, part of the neighborhood. We take care of our own. Is this another human custom? The best one, Jake said. It's called having your back. Zix Theta's antennae wiggled happily. I should document this. After I finish the dishes. And after we watch that show you mentioned, The Office? You said it would help me understand human workplace dynamics. Oh God, I've created a monster, Jake laughed. Just remember, Michael Scott is not a role model. Noted. Although his confidence is admirable? No, bad alien. No Michael Scott energy in this house. They finished cleaning in comfortable companionship, the alien and the human, roommates and friends. Outside, the city hummed with life, millions of souls pursuing their own versions of happiness. Inside apartment 3C, Zix Theta of the Klendari Collective discovered that sometimes the most logical choice was to embrace the illogical, and that efficiency meant nothing without someone to share your ultra coffee with. The next morning brought new challenges. Zix Theta's request for permanent Earth assignment had been denied as expected. The collective's response was terse and disapproving, full of words like contamination and degenerative influence. They give me 7 Earth days to report for recalibration, Zix Theta announced, reading from a holographic display. Failure to comply will result in designation as a rogue element. What does that mean? Jake asked around a mouthful of cereal. Exile, loss of collective status. My biometrics would be purged from all systems. Zix Theta didn't sound nearly as upset as Jake expected. I would truly be alone. No, Jake said firmly. You'd be free, and you definitely wouldn't be alone. As if to prove his point, Jake's phone started buzzing with messages. Word had spread through the building about Zix Theta's situation. Sarah was researching immigration lawyers. Marcus offered to set up a GoFundMe for legal fees. Mr. Chen knew someone at the city council who might help. I don't understand, Zixa Theta said, reading the messages over Jake's shoulder. These people barely know me. Why would they offer resources for my benefit? Because that's what communities do, Jake explained. Plus, you're the only one who can beat Marcus at Mario Kart. We can't lose that. Your priorities are very strange, Zixa Theta observed, but its antennae betrayed pleasure. Elena and Amy arrived within an hour, armed with laptops and legal documents. Okay, Elena announced, spreading papers across the coffee table. I've been looking into precedent for alien asylum cases. It's complicated, but there's definitely a path forward. The main issue, Amy added, is proving that you'd face persecution if you returned. The collective's recalibration process should qualify. Oh, it definitely qualifies, Zixa Theta confirmed. They would systematically purge all Earth-influenced neural pathways. I would forget everything. The taste of orange chicken, the satisfaction of a perfect headshot in Call of Duty, the warmth of shared laughter during movie night. That's horrible, Sarah said, arriving with a box of donuts and more paperwork. That's basically killing who you've become. The collective would say they're restoring who I truly am, Zix Theta replied, then immediately grabbed a chocolate donut. But I disagree. This is who I am now. A Klendari who appreciates the perfect ratio of chocolate to fried dough. The impromptu legal team worked through the day, building Zix Theta's case. Jake was amazed at how quickly everyone mobilized. Marcus brought his lawyer cousin. Mr. Chen's contact at City Hall promised to fast-track any paperwork. Even the usually grumpy superintendent stopped by to offer support, mentioning that Zixa Theta was the only tenant who never complained about the building's quirks. Your radiator's musical tendencies are charming, not annoying, Zixa Theta explained. On Klendari, all sounds are regulated for optimal frequency. Chaos has its own appeal. As the week progressed, Zix Theta threw itself into experiencing as much human life as possible. Jake came home to find the alien had signed up for a cooking class, a book club, and somehow become assistant coach for a kid's soccer team. They needed someone who could see the entire field from multiple angles simultaneously, Zixa Theta explained, still wearing a whistle around its neck. Also, the small humans are hilarious. One asked if I eat children, and when I said no, she offered to share her juice box. I nearly cried, Jake. Is that normal? Getting emotional over kids being nice? Yeah, that's very human. Good. I was concerned I had developed a malfunction. The night before Zix Theta's deadline, the apartment was packed with supporters. The asylum application was ready, support letters had been written, and 3 different lawyers had offered to take the case pro bono. I still don't understand, Zixa Theta said to the assembled crowd. In the collective, resources are exchanged only for equivalent value. You all give freely, expecting nothing. We're getting plenty, Sarah said. We're getting to keep our friend. Plus, you make killer nachos now, Marcus added. That recipe you invented with the 3 types of cheese? Genius. 4 types, Zixa Theta corrected. The 4th is subtle but crucial. Jake stood up, raising his beer. To Zixa Theta, alien, roommate, friend, and soon-to-be Earth resident, welcome to the human race, buddy. To Zix Theta, everyone chorused. The alien's compound eyes somehow managed to look misty. I must warn you all, I've been researching human holidays. If this asylum is granted, I intend to celebrate every single one with maximum enthusiasm. God help us, Jake laughed. Zix Theta's first Christmas is going to be insane. I've already begun planning. Did you know there are 17 different cultural variations of winter celebrations? I intend to observe them all. As the party continued around them, Jake pulled Zixa Theta aside. You sure about this? Once you do this, there's no going back. Jake, Zixa Theta said seriously, in 3 Earth months, I have experienced more joy, friendship, and purpose than in my entire existence within the collective. I've learned that sometimes the most logical choice is to follow what humans call the heart, even though I technically have 3 distributed pumping organs instead. Close enough, Jake grinned. The next morning, instead of reporting to the Klendari ship, Zix Theta walked into the immigration office, flanked by lawyers and friends. The tall alien in human clothes, clutching a folder of documents and a stress ball shaped like Earth, was a sight that made several officials do double takes. "State your business," the clerk said, trying to maintain professional composure. "I am Zix Theta of the Klendari Collective," the alien announced, then paused. "Actually, just Zix Theta. I'm here to request asylum on Earth and begin the process of becoming a permanent resident. I brought donuts for the office, Boston cream and glazed. I researched that government employees appreciate caffeinated beverages and pastries." The clerk's professional mask cracked into a smile. "Well, that's the best asylum application opening I've seen. Let's get you processed." As Zix Theta began the long journey toward Earth citizenship, Jake waited outside with the others. Through the window, they could see the alien carefully filling out forms, occasionally asking questions that made the immigration officers laugh. "Think it'll be okay?" Sarah asked. "Look at it," Jake said, watching Zix Theta offer its stress ball to a crying child in the waiting room. 6 months ago, that was a hyper-efficient alien who thought emotions were inefficient. Now look." Through the window, they saw Zix Theta making the child laugh by wiggling its antennae while simultaneously helping an elderly man fill out his forms with its extra appendages. "Yeah," Jake smiled. "It's going to be just fine." 6 months later, Jake's apartment looked like a cultural exchange center had exploded inside it. Zix Theta's corner featured a wall covered in photos from every human celebration the alien had participated in: Halloween, where Zix Theta had won 3 costume contests by going as a human in an alien costume; Thanksgiving, 5 different dinners in one day; Christmas, the apartment still had lights up in March because Zix Theta loved them too much to take them down, and dozens of smaller moments. Jake found Zix Theta in the kitchen at 5 a.m., wearing a Kiss the Cook apron and wielding spatulas in 4 different hands while managing 3 pans simultaneously. The alien had discovered cooking shows and had become obsessed with what it called competitive food preparation. "Morning, Zix. Little early for Iron Chef, isn't it?" "Jake, perfect timing." Zix Theta spun around, nearly knocking over a bowl with an errant antenna. "I'm practicing for the neighborhood cook-off. My fusion cuisine will revolutionize human culinary expectations." Jake examined the pan nearest to him and immediately stepped back. Is that spaghetti in a taco shell?" "With kimchi and a maple syrup reduction," Zix Theta announced proudly. "I call it the International Incident. Would you like to try some?" "I choose life," Jake said, reaching for the coffee maker, then remembering. "Wait, what did you do to my coffee maker this time?" "Nothing major. I merely adjusted the molecular alignment process to enhance caffeine bioavailability by 47%. Jake poured a cup and took a sip. His eyes widened. "Zix, I can see through time. That's the Enlightenment blend. I added a touch of Klendari neural stimulant. Completely safe for humans in small doses." "Define small doses." 1 cup maximum. 2 might let you perceive additional dimensions temporarily." Jake carefully set the cup down. "Maybe we should put warning labels on your kitchen experiments." The doorbell rang and Zix Theta's antennae perked up. "That'll be my citizenship class study group. We're preparing for the final test next week." A diverse group of immigrants filed in, all greeting Zix Theta warmly. There was Chen Wei from China, Isabella from Brazil, Omar from Egypt, and Svetlana from Russia. They'd all bonded over their shared experience of adapting to American culture, though none had embraced it quite as enthusiastically as Zix Theta. "Zix, my friend, Omar said, settling at the dining table. Please tell me you didn't make more of that experimental hummus. The addition of Pop Rocks was inspired, Zixa Theta protested. Inspired madness, Svetlana laughed. But we love you anyway, Space Bug. Jake watched them study together, Zixa Theta helping others with complex governmental structure questions while they helped the alien understand cultural nuances that couldn't be learned from books. It was during these sessions that Jake saw how much Zix Theta had grown, not just in understanding human customs, but in becoming a bridge between different cultures. The Electoral College makes no sense, Chenwei complained. Why not just count votes? Think of it like this, Zix Theta explained, using salt shakers and pepper mills to create a visual demonstration. It's similar to how the Galactic Council weighs votes by planetary population density rather than raw numbers. Flawed, but intended to balance representation. When you explain it like that, it almost makes sense, Isabella admitted. Many human systems are logical if you view them through the right lens, Zixa Theta said. I've found that most cultural practices, no matter how strange they seem, serve some social or psychological purpose. Speaking of strange practices, Omar interjected, can someone explain baseball to me? The rules seem deliberately obtuse. Oh, Zixa Theta's eyes lit up. I've been studying this. Baseball is actually a complex metaphor for life's journey. You start at home, face various challenges, and try to return safely. It's philosophical. It's boring, Svetlana countered. Boring? Zixa Theta gasped dramatically. The statistical complexity alone is fascinating. Did you know there are over 47 different metrics for measuring a player's performance? Jake left them to their debate, heading to work with a smile. Zix Theta had not only adapted to human life, but had become an integral part of the community. The alien's asylum case had been approved after a lengthy process, largely thanks to the overwhelming community support and the fact that Zixa Theta had become something of a local celebrity. That evening, Jake returned home to find the apartment transformed into what looked like a campaign headquarters. Banners reading Zix Theta for Building Representative hung from the walls, and the alien was in the middle of practicing a speech. What fresh hell is this? Jake asked Sarah, who was manning a table covered in buttons featuring Zix Theta's face. Your roommate decided to run for the building's tenant representative position, Sarah explained. Platform includes mandatory movie nights, communal dinners, and installing a rooftop garden. Also improving the building's Wi-Fi using Clendari signal enhancement technology, Marcus added, working on a laptop. I'm sold on that alone. Zix Theta noticed Jake and rushed over. Jake, I need your input on my speech. Is it too aggressive to promise to crush our landlord's unreasonable rent increases beneath the weight of organized tenant action? Maybe tone it down a notch, Jake suggested. You're running for building rep, not leading a revolution. But I've been reading about human grassroots organization, the passion, the collective action. It's like the Clendari Collective, but with more shouting and signs. And that's different from the collective how? Zix Theta paused. We had much less shouting. I see now this was a mistake. The campaign event was a success. With most of the building showing up for free food, Zix Theta had wisely partnered with normal human cooks for this event, and to hear the alien's platform. Jake watched with pride as his roommate worked the crowd, switching seamlessly between languages, remembering everyone's names and concerns, and somehow making building maintenance sound exciting. Fellow residents, Zix Theta announced from a makeshift platform. For too long we have accepted substandard conditions, leaky pipes, broken elevators, a laundry room that smells like sadness. Yeah, someone shouted from the back. If elected, I promise to use every appendage at my disposal to improve our home. I've already negotiated with 3 contractors using competitive bidding strategies I learned from human reality television. The crowd laughed and applauded. Jake noticed even the typically cynical long-term residents were nodding along. Plus, Zix Theta added with perfect comic timing. I'm literally too tall to ignore at city council meetings. After the event, as they cleaned up, Jake found a quiet moment with Zix Theta on their balcony. You know you don't have to do all this, right? Jake said. The cooking competitions, the tenant organizing, the coaching. You've already got your asylum approved. I know, Zixa Theta replied, looking out at the city lights. But that's exactly why I must do it. On Klendari, we contribute because we're required to. Here, I contribute because I want to. Because this place, these people, you, gave me a life I never imagined possible. You're gonna make me cry, you big bug. I've made you cry before. Remember when I modified your gaming console to run at quantum processing speeds and it achieved sentience? That was different. I was crying from fear. They shared a laugh. Then Zix Theta grew serious again. I received another message from the collective yesterday. Jake tensed. And? They're sending an evaluation team. Not to retrieve me. They've accepted my defection, but to understand why so many Klendari are now requesting Earth assignments. Wait, what? How many? 17 at last count. My reports, the ones they called contaminated, have apparently inspired others. They want to taste pizza, Jake. They want to feel the triumph of beating a difficult video game boss. They want to understand why humans sing in the shower even though the acoustics are terrible. The acoustics are great in showers. No, they're really not. But that's not the point, is it? The point is the joy of singing badly without judgment. Jake processed this information. So you're saying you started an alien cultural revolution? Accidentally. The collective is very concerned. They're calling it the Zix Theta effect. That's amazing. You're like the alien Paul Revere, if Paul Revere really liked orange chicken and Marvel movies. I don't understand that reference, but I'll research it later. Zix Theta made a pleased humming sound. The evaluation team arrives next month. I've been asked to show them my life here, to help them understand. Will you help me? Of course. We'll give them the full human experience. Movie marathons, food trucks, sports events where we yell at screens showing people we don't know playing games that ultimately don't matter. You make it sound ridiculous when you phrase it like that. That's because it is ridiculous. Beautifully, wonderfully ridiculous. Over the next weeks, the building threw itself into preparations for the Klendari evaluation team's visit. Zix Theta won the tenant representative election in a landslide, immediately implementing weekly community dinners and somehow negotiating a 15% reduction in rent increases through a combination of legal knowledge and sheer persistence. The alien had also started teaching a free class at the community center called Intergalactic Cultural Exchange, which mostly consisted of Zix Theta enthusiastically explaining human customs to other aliens, while equally confused humans tried to understand alien perspectives. It was chaos, but popular chaos. Today we'll be discussing the human concept of white lies, Zix Theta announced to a mixed class of humans and various aliens. This is when humans deliberately provide false information to preserve emotional comfort. It's fascinating and completely illogical. It's not illogical, protested Janet, a regular attendee. Sometimes the truth hurts unnecessarily. But wouldn't it be more efficient to simply recalibrate emotional responses to accept objective reality? Asked a young Martian. Efficiency isn't everything, Zix Theta said sagely, sounding exactly like Jake. Sometimes inefficiency is the most human thing you can do. The day the Klendari evaluation team arrived, Jake barely recognized them as the same species as Zix Theta. Where his roommate had become expressive and animated, these three Klendari moved with mechanical precision, their compound eyes betraying no emotion. Greetings, Defector Zix Theta, the lead evaluator, Vexandra, said coolly. We are here to observe and analyze your situation. Welcome to Earth, Zix Theta responded, trying to hug Vexandra, who stepped back in alarm. Oh, right, you haven't learned about hugging yet. It's a human gesture of affection involving non-reproductive physical contact. Very efficient for conveying emotional support. Efficiency and emotion are contradictory concepts, Vexandra stated. That's what I used to think, Zixatheta chirped. Come, let me show you my home. What followed was the most intensive cultural immersion program in human-alien relations history. Zix Theta and the building residents subjected the evaluation team to every possible human experience. Day 1 involved food. The evaluators watched in horrified fascination as Zixa Theta devoured street tacos, bubble tea, and something called a garbage plate from a local food truck. You consume this voluntarily? Vexandra asked, analyzing a French fry with scientific equipment. Voluntarily? I consume it enthusiastically, Zix Theta exclaimed. Here, try one with this sauce. It's called ranch dressing. Humans put it on everything, and now I understand why. Day 2 was entertainment. Jake introduced the evaluators to movie night, choosing a comedy to ease them in. The Klendari sat in perfect stillness for the first half hour, but Jake noticed their antennae beginning to twitch during particularly funny scenes. The human's decision-making is highly illogical, one evaluator commented. That's what makes it funny, Zixa Theta explained. Humor often derives from subverted expectations and relatable failures. Watch this part. He's about to do something spectacularly stupid. When the character did indeed do something spectacularly stupid, Jake could swear he heard one of the evaluators make a sound that might have been a laugh. Day 3 introduced them to competitive gaming. Marcus had set up a tournament, and watching the hyperlogical aliens try to understand the appeal of virtual competition was entertaining in itself. But no resources are actually gained, Vexandra protested, holding a controller awkwardly. The experience is the resource, Zix Theta said. The joy of competition, the satisfaction of improvement, the bonding through shared activity. Also, watch out for the blue shell. The what? Vexandra's question was cut off by a digital explosion. This game is teaching me fury. Is that intentional? Very much so, Marcus grinned. Welcome to Mario Kart, where friendships go to die. By day 5, cracks were showing in the evaluator's rigid demeanor. Jake caught one secretly practicing video game moves. Another had been spotted in the kitchen at 3 a.m., furtively trying human snacks. The third had attended Mr. Chen's storytelling circle and asked follow-up questions. The real breakthrough came during the building's monthly potluck. Zixa Theta had insisted the evaluators attend, despite their protests about nutritional efficiency. The community had outdone themselves, bringing dishes from a dozen different cultures. This is highly inefficient, Vexandra stated, surveying the crowded community room. Multiple individuals preparing separate meals when a single nutrient distribution would suffice. But look closer, Zix Theta urged. See how Elena shares her grandmother's recipe with Chen Wei? Watch Marcus teach Omar his secret barbecue technique? Notice how Isabella and Svetlana bond over their similar childhood dishes? This isn't just about nutrition. Then what is it about? Connection, memory, love, community. Zix Theta grabbed a plate. Here, try Mrs. Patterson's mac and cheese. She's been perfecting this recipe for 40 years. Vexandra took a careful bite. The evaluator's eyes widened, antennae straightening. This generates unusual sensory responses. That's called pleasure, Zixa Theta said gently. It's okay to enjoy it. Jake watched as the evaluators slowly, cautiously began to integrate into the potluck. Residents, well-versed in Zix Theta's journey, welcomed them warmly. By the end of the evening, Vexandra was in deep conversation with Sarah about urban planning. Another evaluator was learning salsa dancing from Isabella, and the third was helping wash dishes while listening to Mr. Chen's stories. How did this happen to me? Zixa Theta wondered that night, finding Jake on the balcony. How did I go from a perfect Klendari drone to this? You let yourself feel, Jake said simply. You stopped calculating the most efficient path and started exploring what made you happy. The collective won't understand. Maybe they will. Look at your evaluation team. Through the window, they could see Vexandra teaching the other evaluators a card game they'd learned, all three making sounds suspiciously like laughter. The Zix Theta effect strikes again, Jake grinned. The evaluation team's 2-week visit extended to a month. They attended Zix Theta's citizenship ceremony, where the alien took the oath with tears streaming from its compound eyes. A physiological response Zix Theta had developed through sheer determination to cry at appropriate moments. They participated in Halloween, with Vexandra winning second place in the costume contest as a terrifyingly accurate human businessman. They experienced their first Thanksgiving, where they learned that humans regularly celebrated gratitude by eating until physical discomfort set in. On their last day, the evaluation team held a formal debriefing with Zix Theta in Jake's apartment. Jake made himself scarce but could hear the conversation from his room. Your integration into human society is complete, Vexandra stated. You have become, for all practical purposes, culturally human while remaining biologically Klendari. Is that bad? Zix Theta asked. We thought it would be. The collective sent us to understand how you had fallen so far from efficiency. Vexandra paused. Instead, we discovered something else. What? That efficiency without purpose is just elaborate emptiness. You haven't fallen, Zix Theta. You've risen, and Vexandra's voice wavered, showing emotion for the first time. I want to rise too. You mean? 2 of us have already submitted Earth assignment requests. I'll be filing mine tomorrow, with a specific request for this city, if possible. Mrs. Patterson promised to teach me her mac and cheese recipe. Jake heard what could only be described as the sound of aliens hugging. Later, after tearful goodbyes and promises to stay in touch, Jake and Zix Theta sat in their living room, surrounded by the comfortable chaos of their shared life. So what's next? Jake asked. You've got your citizenship, won the building election, started an intergalactic cultural revolution. Gonna run for mayor? Actually, Zix Theta said, pulling up a holographic display, I've been accepted into culinary school. I want to open a food truck that serves fusion cuisine from every culture on Earth. I'll call it Zix Theta's Intergalactic Eats. That's terrifying and brilliant. Just like humanity itself, Zix Theta said fondly. Terrifying, brilliant, chaotic, wonderful humanity. Thank you, Jake. For what? For opening your door to a 7-foot-tall alien with no understanding of human culture. For teaching me that the best things in life can't be optimized or calculated. For being my first human friend and showing me how to be more than what I was programmed to be. Jake felt his eyes getting misty. Okay. Now you're making me cry for real. Good. Crying together is a bonding experience. I'll get the ice cream and we can watch that movie about the dog. You know, the sad one that makes everyone cry? Absolutely not. We're watching something with explosions. Compromise. Explosions that make us cry? Deal. As they settled in for another movie night, Jake reflected on how much had changed since that first day. His alien roommate had become his best friend, their apartment had become a cultural embassy, and their building had become a model for interspecies integration. Outside, the city hummed with its usual energy, now enhanced by the presence of more and more aliens choosing to make Earth their home. The Zix Theta effect was spreading, one shared meal, one movie night, one genuine friendship at a time. Hey, Zix, Jake said as the movie started. Yes? Welcome home, buddy. Zix Theta made that humming sound that Jake now recognized as pure contentment. Home. Yes, that's exactly what this is. And as the movie played, as somewhere in the city Mrs. Patterson taught mac and cheese to a homesick Clendari, as around the world aliens and humans discovered the joy of connection beyond mere efficiency, Jake smiled. Sometimes the best roommate situations were the ones you never saw coming. Sometimes the best friends were the ones who challenged everything you thought you knew. And sometimes, just sometimes, a simple act of opening your door could change the universe, even if that change came with ultra coffee and spaghetti tacos.